Hi there, welcome back. Have you ever asked about the IELTS Task 1 map question? Have you ever looked at it and thought, oh, well, what do they expect me to write here? I kind of feel like I can describe this, but I don't really know what my examiner wants. One important key to success in these Task 1 map questions is to use the right vocabulary. This is where a lot of people get stuck. Maybe they have not prepared the proper vocabulary, or they just do not know it anyway. So in this video, I'd like to give you 3 vocabulary areas that are essential for answering these map questions. By the end, you'll have a bank of useful phrases that you can use whenever you face one of these map questions. Keep watching through to the end so that you get all of the vocabulary. If you're new to this channel, thank you so much for clicking on it. My name's David. I am your coach from IELTS Breakthrough. IELTS Breakthrough is a YouTube channel that helps you get a high score in IELTS academic, general training and IELTS life skills. Please make sure that you subscribe so that you get access to all of the free value-packed tutorials. So let's look at the first vocabulary area. This is all about describing the location of a feature on the map. In this kind of question, you need to tell the reader, i.e. the examiner, exactly where a feature is on the map. Let's look at 3 layers of location language that you should have ready. Layer number 1 is cardinal and relative directions. We'll start with the easy one. This is using the main points of the compass in the north, south, east and west of the map. For example, a car park was built in the north of the map. The next phrase is basically if you're talking about the top half or the bottom half of the map. Again, it's a good idea to stick to the compass points. Your phrase is in the northern or southern part of. Example, the school was relocated to the southern part of the town. And then, of course, you can add further compass points. So as well as north, south, east and west, it's useful to know the points in between, which would be northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest. And here the preposition is in. So in the southeast corner of is your phrase. Here's an example sentence. A sports facility was added in the northeast corner. And then lastly, you also might need to describe the location in the centre. That's easy. In the centre or in the central area. For example, the market remained in the central area of the town. Just one point here with the preposition in. In is more accurate than to. So in the north gives a more specific position than to the north, which means the general area, the general northern area. Layer 2 then is proximity language for position. Here are some examples. Adjacent to, next to or beside, opposite, between A and B, surrounded by. And some example sentences. A hotel was constructed adjacent to the train station. A cafe was added next to the main entrance. A new library is opposite the town hall. A new road was built between the school and the hospital. And lastly, the park was surrounded by residential housing. One point to note here is that adjacent to means the same as next to. The advantage of using adjacent to is that it is a little bit less common. Everyone knows the preposition next to, but adjacent to will kind of score a little mini point with your examiner in the vocabulary area. Now, level 3 is what I call along and around language. Here are some examples of the phrases you can use. Along the river, the road, or the coast. On the outskirts of. On the left or right side of. At the junction or intersection of. And some example sentences. Several shops were built along the riverbank. An industrial zone was established on the outskirts of town. The factory was relocated to the right side. The factory was relocated to the right side of the main road. A roundabout was added at the junction of the two roads. So the first set of vocabulary is pinpointing the location. The next thing we need to do is tell the reader about the shape of any feature on the map. When you look at the map and you see these features like a road, a building, a house, a hospital, a park or a development zone, these features have certain shapes. If you can tell the reader the kind of shape it is, it will make your Task 1 answer that much more professional. Here is the core vocabulary that you need to know for describing shapes. Rectangular, square, circular or round, L-shaped, curved or winding, straight and linear. Now, this kind of vocabulary applies to different kinds of shapes. So here's a little table that shows you what vocabulary is associated with what kind of feature. And I've put an example sentence at the end as well. Notice that there are two main patterns here. Pattern number 1 is where you put the adjective before the noun. For example, a rectangular building was constructed to the south of the park. A second pattern you can use is to put the actual shape in as a relative clause. This makes your sentence a bit longer, but it has the advantage of showing the examiner that you can use more complex grammatical structures. Here is an example for you. A building which was roughly rectangular in shape was constructed to the south of the park. Now, the third area that can be really useful is what I call size change language. This particularly applies to map number 2, where you have to describe how the features have changed. And of course, an important change that these features experience is they get bigger, they get smaller, or maybe they are eliminated. So for this vocabulary, I'll break it into 3 groups. Vocabulary to describe features that get bigger, vocabulary to describe the features that get smaller, and then lastly, a group of vocabulary to describe that the features stayed the same. Here is the first group. Was expanded, was extended, increased in size, doubled in size, or maybe grew to twice its size, was enlarged, a larger noun replaced. Now, we'll just look at the examples to show you how to use this vocabulary. The car park was significantly expanded by 2023. The main road was extended to reach the new housing area. The industrial zone increased in size considerably. The shopping centre doubled in size over the period. The sports ground was enlarged to accommodate more facilities. A larger terminal replaced the original building. At this point, I should mention that notice that a lot of these change vocabulary is verbs, and when we use these verbs, we use them in the passive voice. That is, using was or were plus ed. Now, that's because we are not interested in who enlarged the thing. We're interested in the thing itself, which is the object. Therefore, we go into the passive voice. Okay, so let's look at the second group. This is vocabulary to describe a feature that got smaller. Here are the phrases you can use. Was reduced in size, shrank, decreased in size, a smaller noun replaced, was scaled down. And some example sentences for you. The green area was it reduced in size to make way for new housing. The forest area shrank considerably between the two periods. The farmland decreased in size as the town expanded. A smaller park replaced the original open grassland. The proposed development was scaled down in the final plan. And just a note with that example, your map questions usually refer to two maps at two certain points in the past. However, it is also possible that you get a map that refers to future or proposed changes. So just check the year or the time reference of that second map. That last example refers to a future change. So the last group is features that stayed the same. Here are some useful phrases. Remained the same size, retained its original size, was unchanged, no changes were made to. And the example sentences: the town hall remained the same size throughout the period. The church retained its original size and position. The river was unchanged in both maps. No significant changes were made to the eastern boundary. So there you have it. You've got some really useful vocabulary to describe the position, the shape, and the change. Now, all you have to do is put it all together. Let me show you how you can combine these three elements. A large rectangular car park was constructed to the north of the town centre, replacing what had previously been a small green area. Let's quickly recap then what we've covered in this video. For map change questions in IELTS Task 1 Academic, you need these three vocabulary areas of describing the position, telling the reader about the shape, and how the shape has changed. You can do this using directions, proximity words, along and around phrases, describing features as rectangular, circular, L-shaped, curved, and whether something expanded, shrank, or stayed the same. If you found this video useful, do me a favour and comment below. Which of these 3 vocabulary areas did you find most useful? And if you want more help with IELTS Task 1 questions, including map questions and graph questions, remember that there is the IELTS Breakthrough Study Zone, which is an online course that you can join right now and get all of the detailed tips and strategies to improve your Task 1 answer so that you get a high score the first time you do the IELTS test. I give you model answers, vocabulary feedback, and step-by-step guidance in all areas, all sections of the academic version of IELTS. Just click the link to find out how to join the IELTS Breakthrough Study Zone. Anyway, I look forward to your comments about which vocabulary area is most useful for you in maps. I read every comment and it's great to hear from you. If you want more tips on writing, check out the writing playlist. There's plenty of videos that show you exactly how to tackle both Task 1 and Task 2. So carry on with those in the meantime, and I'll see you in the next video.